All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're digging into a pretty profound and frankly unsettling concept from an author we only know as FZ. It's a judgment on all of humanity, really, and it kicks off with one of the bluntest statements you will probably ever hear.
Yep, you heard that right. No minced words there. That's the author's final verdict for anyone who thinks they're a big deal in our current world. So, what on earth could lead someone to such a crude and dismissive conclusion about all of us? You have to understand, the author says this isn't personal. It's not an insult aimed at you or me. It's a deliberate choice. They're using what they call vulgar terms as a sharp warning for a specific era in our history, an era they've named the childhood of humanity. So, what exactly is this childhood of humanity? Well, to really get it, we first have to wrap our heads around the author's sense of scale. A scale so massive that it makes pretty much everything we care about seem totally meaningless. The entire argument, the whole thing, really hangs on this one idea: the staggering difference between a single human life and the long, sprawling history of the entire human species. So, on one hand, you've got an individual life. The author says, even if you live to be 100, that's really just your own personal story. But then you look at the big picture, the long river of human history. And in that context, the author argues, even the most amazing lives are less than ripples. They're less than dust. Let's look at the examples they use. First, the author asks us to think about someone whose life is just packed with violence and incredible experiences. A person who has killed and stared death in the face over and over. You'd think that person would be a huge deal, historically speaking. But from MFZ's point of view, that whole life, when you place it in the grand sweep of human history, is just a tiny, momentary ripple on a huge river. It's there, and then it's gone. Okay, fine. What about a different kind of life, then? Somebody who spends their whole life on science, or art, or knowledge, and they get famous, they get rich. Surely their contribution has to mean something, right? Nope, not according to the author. Even a lifetime of incredible achievement, when you measured against our species' entire history, is less than a speck of dust. And now we get to the final, and maybe the most scathing example. This is the person who gets power. The one who can point out enemies, talk about geopolitics, and actually drive entire nations to war. In our childhood phase, we look at these people as leaders, right? As major players. And it's these people who get that vulgar judgment we heard at the start. The idea is, once humanity finally grows up, all their power and influence will be seen for what it was, completely, utterly insignificant. From this viewpoint, no matter what you do as an individual, it just doesn't matter in the long run. So now that we've got that humbling, almost terrifying sense of scale, we can finally define what the author actually means by the childhood of humanity. And it isn't just about being young, it's about being deluded. At its heart, the diagnosis is this: as a species, we're in a state of collective ignorance. We lack self-awareness. We just don't really know who we are or what we're capable of, or even how our own minds truly work. The author lists the symptoms very clearly. First, we're unaware of our own thinking function, the one thing that makes us human. We're also totally blind to our own potential for greatness. Instead, our minds are completely polarized by man-made things, religions, political parties, nations. And this leads to the author's most shocking claim that most of us are basically thought slaves, serving masters we don't even see, and fighting to the death over childish ideas. Now, for MFZ, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. This is an urgent existential warning. They believe this childhood phase is ending, and the transition out of it is the most dangerous moment in the history of our species. The author even gives this transition a specific, heavy name to make sure we get how serious it is: the most perilous period for humanity. And that's the real kicker. We're in it, right now. According to this text, the transition has already started, and the danger is just immense. So what is the danger exactly? It's this: we have the technology of an adult species. We've got weapons that can wipe us out, information systems that can divide billions of us, but we're using all that power with the wisdom and emotional maturity of children. The stakes really could not be any higher. It's a race against the clock. We either evolve or we perish. That is the stark choice the author lays out for us. So what are we supposed to do? How do we get through this perilous time and grow up? Well, the author's prescription is maybe the most bizarre and challenging part of this whole thing.
The author's advice basically is to do nothing. Don't even try to solve the problem with what they call your childhood perspectives. Any attempt you make to influence what they call the great process will just mess things up even more. Your job is to get out of the way and trust the procedure.
So why this completely passive approach? It's because MFZ believes our development isn't actually up to us. They argue that if a creator set up our thinking function, then a developmental procedure must have been set up too. Our evolution is basically already written into our code. And this is where the strange, fatalistic hope comes in. We don't save ourselves. We get saved. The author has faith that at the exact right moment, these great individuals will just show up, destined to lead the rest of us into adulthood. And this really is the final crucial question we're left with. The author gives us this profound diagnosis of our entire species, but then offers a solution that demands we do absolutely nothing. We're told to trust a pre-programmed system and just wait for saviors. But in this most perilous period, with our own self-destruction literally on the table, is waiting for someone else to fix our problems a risk we can actually afford to take? That's the thought I'll leave you with.